Exteriores ruso, Sergei Lavrov, afirmaba que las Fuerzas Armadas ucranianas han lanzado ese ataque con drones contra la residencia presidencial en Novgorod.
С 28 на 29 декабря 2025 года киевский режим предпринял террористическую атаку с использованием 91 ударного беспилотного летательного аппарата дальнего действия на государственную резиденцию президента Российской Федерации в Новгородской области. Все беспилотные летательные аппараты уничтожены средствами противовоздушной обороны Вооруженных сил Российской Федерации. Данных о пострадавших и ущербе от обломков БПЛА не поступало. Обращаем внимание на то, что данная акция была совершена в ходе интенсивных переговоров между Россией и США по урегулированию украинского конфликта. Подобные безрассудные действия не останутся без ответа. Объекты для ответных ударов и время их нанесения вооруженными силами России определены. При этом мы не намерены выходить из переговорного процесса с Соединенными Штатами. Вместе с тем, учитывая окончательное перерождение преступного киевского режима, перешедшего к политике государственного терроризма, переговорная позиция России будет пересмотрена.
En ese audio escuchábamos cómo Sergei Lavrov, entre la noche del 28 y la madrugada del 29 de diciembre, confirmaba que Kiev habría empleado hasta 91 drones de largo alcance en lo que ha calificado como un ataque terrorista. El jefe de la diplomacia rusa ha asegurado que todos los aparatos fueron interceptados y destruidos por las defensas aéreas antes de alcanzar ese objetivo.
So, friends, we've seen a lot. I'm talking about the Ukrainian public. But we've never seen anything like this before. And the most upsetting part of the story is that the capture by a Russian sabotage and reconnaissance group of a control observation post, presumably belonging to a territorial defense battalion in an open field, is not a fake. It's a true story. This is what happened, and it's what we need to keep talking about. If you missed it, here's a clip from the video, which is absolutely publicly available and is now being spread across all Telegram channels, both official and unofficial, of the Russian Federation. And of course, it has already been. Many of our military personnel, as well as military journalists, have already watched it and managed to give their assessment,
where they carried out reconstruction and subsequently took actions to defend Mariupol and advance towards it. The battalion chief of staff's workplace. Here too, the stamps they left behind remain. Film it. Completely. Folders with information also signed, and everything is stamped. The phones are still working. Here they have a workstation for observers, where observers work with a UAV drone. The adjusted kamikaze drones and artillery.
Basically, that's the gist of it, and that's the video. It's quite long. You can find and watch it separately. But look, more than a day has passed since this video was made public. And there's only been one official comment from the Ukrainian Defense Forces, specifically from Operational Command South. It looks like this, and it appeared this morning. Vlad Voloshin comments, spokesperson for Operational Command South. Regarding this incident, representatives of the relevant competent authorities are conducting a detailed investigation to determine the causes and circumstances that led to such an event, and in general, whether it actually took place at all. Only after that will information be made public. In addition, a case will be opened by law enforcement agencies Also, based on the results of the investigation, the actions of each official involved in these events will be evaluated. No one will hide anything. My personal assessment is not enough in this case. That's not enough because right now there's a storm of criticism. It's extraordinary, basically, and concerns the systemic nature of such things. Huliaipol is a gray zone today, as you know. In this rather large city, there are both Ukrainian military and Russian sabotage and reconnaissance groups. In fact, everything there is happening in a mixed-up way. And everyone who has now watched this video, according to the strength of their own authority, is giving their assessment of these events. As I already mentioned, these are both journalists and military personnel. We can start, for example, with the military. Bohdan Kratovic, let me enlarge his post now, which he made based on his own experience. You know, Azov, he was in the Azov headquarters, and he shares his experience about how technical equipment and documents are destroyed or not destroyed when a control observation post or the headquarters of a brigade or battalion needs to be relocated or abandoned for some reason. And so he describes a situation where he personally ordered his subordinates to burn everything completely. And this order was only formally carried out and nothing was actually burned. Then it all had to be fixed on the go only because Bohdan Kratovic personally checked the situation. This is what he writes about. He writes that the task was not completed, and as a result, all the documentation remained intact. Some geniuses set a couple of desks on fire and left, after which, of course, the fires went out. In the video, my driver and I are burning all the documentation. There's also another video on his page, Yes, and property, including generators, chainsaws, and so on. Unfortunately, not everyone understands even the most basic things. Still, I hope other brigades will draw conclusions and establish a standard operating procedure for all their headquarters. You don't need to wait for instructions from the general staff to do this. Of course, the responsibility for this particular incident should lie with the chief of staff of the unit, but they come up with something like appointing someone responsible. The responsible officer who messed up, well, he gets a reprimand. In a system where the commander-in-chief never takes responsibility for failures, those who are actually supposed to be held accountable will never be the ones blamed. It's like with lying. You can't demand that commanders tell the truth if everyone around them is lying. That's Bohdan Kratovic's opinion, but that's not all. The main complaint about this video information that appeared is, why are the phones lying on chargers? Why are the laptops turned on? And so on and so forth. Isn't this actually some kind of fake story, or is it really a fake story? Another thing that draws attention is that there are no chevrons or identifying marks on the Russians' uniforms. In other words, is this real? An event that actually happened? As of now, we know roughly that this is basically how it was. The control observation post was abandoned. Don't expect everything right away. I'll report the latest details as they come, but let's go through things step by step. So all these questions are also being discussed by Yulia Kirienko. Kirienko is a military journalist who works close to the front line. And of course, she is competent to speak about certain things. Here is her post. If they had simply fled, they probably would have taken their belongings and laptops with them. The Russian soldiers have no identification marks on them, which is also strange. But what is also striking is the silence from the military group responsible for this section of the front or the territorial defense forces, which still haven't come forward to explain what actually happened at the command post. I showed you the only comment from Voloshin. We still haven't seen any statement from the territorial defense forces. What have we managed to find out? First, there really is a 1st Battalion of the 106th Territorial Defense Brigade, which until August was the 74th Battalion of the 102nd Brigade. And this explains the 102nd Brigade flag seen in the Russian video. And did you see it there? You could also see the facial recognition software on the laptop screen. Then, due to reorganization, it was transferred under the command of the 106th. Second, the situation in Huliaipol is indeed critical. The defense forces are holding the southern part of the city. There is also a sharper assessment from Sternenko, for example, who writes, "This kind of event is yet another loud symptom. A symptom of a systemic crisis in the military. You can't leave the system in its current state, otherwise Tomorrow, the enemy will be breaking through not just to a tactical depth, but to an operational tactical one. Simply put, the enemy will be advancing dozens of kilometers deep into our defenses. Lies and the collapse of the command system are destroying our army. By the way, when you say from the word of a guy, that's a hint at Mr. Manko, who is in charge of our air assault forces. Look, well, so this assessment, although it's the most emotional, is the one I agree with the least, because right now the details are still being clarified. What actually...
Hola, tío, Jen.
¿Se acuerdan que habíamos comentado que era muy probable que haya pasado algo en la reunión entre Zelensky y Trump? Porque Vladimir Putin y Trump hablaron y en esa conversación telefónica se dijeron cosas que iban a salir a la luz muy pronto. Pero bueno, ya lo sabemos. Resulta que Zelensky tuvo la brillante idea de atacar la residencia del presidente ruso Vladimir Putin justo antes de reunirse con Donald Trump. Así como lo acaban de escuchar, y aparentemente la administración rusa le comentó esto al presidente estadounidense, que simplemente se enojó tanto que marcó el camino de la reunión con Zelensky. Así que, damas y caballeros,
escóndete o serás eliminado. Es el severo mensaje contra Zelensky, sin eufemismos. Kiev lanzó 91 drones de largo alcance contra una residencia de Putin en Novgorod y encendió la furia del Kremlin. Dmitry Medvedev lo llamó apestoso bastardo de Kiev y sentenció lo siguiente: deberá permanecer escondido el resto de su miserable vida. Mientras Moscú y Washington hablaban de paz, el Kremlin sintió el ataque como una puñalada al diálogo. Lavrov confirmó que los 91 drones fueron derribados y que los blancos de la respuesta ya están marcados, mientras Trump se declaró atónito e indignado. Si así reaccionan hoy, ¿qué viene en la revancha rusa?